Topic of the discussion is delegation of authority. What advantages it accrues to the organization? What are the problems involved in delegation of authority? How to solve the problem? These aspects are going to be dealt in my lecture. First, if I have to tell you first briefly authority. What do you mean by authority? Different authors have defined the term in different ways, but commonly accepted definitions are given by three eminent professors. One, Mr. Henry Fayol is a great author of the general management. He has defined authority in a different way. According to him, authority is nothing but power to give orders and exact obedience. He has just defined the term authority as simply as a power to give direction to others. And another eminent professor, Kuhns O'Donnell, he has defined the term in a different way. According to him, authority is nothing but power to direct others to behave or not to behave in a particular way. This is his definition. Third, another important definition is given by Simpson. According to him, authority is nothing but authority to, right to share power with others. These three definitions have been given for the term authority. So by shooting a look at these three definitions, we can have an idea about what the power. Power is nothing but right to give command, right to give direction, right, authority to power to share with others. Decision making is nothing but right to give decision making power to subordinates. Next topic of discussion is what is delegation? Is it essential? These two aspects I am going to cover in a short while. First, delegation. Delegation is nothing but entrustment of authority by superior officer to subordinates. It's nothing but a superior officer is handing over a part of authority to subordinates. This process of handing over the authority by superior officer to subordinate is called delegation. Second aspect, is it actually essential? Is it necessary for an officer to share power with others or to share authority with others? It is a topic of discussion. Now, however talented, competent, skilled, knowledgeable a person may be, he cannot do all the work single-handedly, independently, without the cooperation or dependence on others. He has to necessarily be dependent on others for work turnout. Once a limit is crossed, once a workload becomes heavier, a person cannot do the work independently. He has to necessarily share power or delegate authority to his subordinates below him. Otherwise, he will be a utter flop. Take the case of our directorate or take the case of our university. The entire power is vested with the syndicate. The syndicate in turn is delegating the power to Senate. Senate is in turn, we are delegating the power to Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor is delegating all administrative powers to Registrar. Registrar is delegating the power to different authorities. So far as the distant education is concerned, all the distance education related matters are delegated to Directorate. Director in turn is delegating several powers, several authority to different authorities below him. Admission aspect is given to several SOs, then a certificate, press and other aspects related to distant education are delegated to different authorities below him. So far as academic matter is concerned, all the academic affairs are delegated to different heads of the departments, that is wing heads, we call them link heads. They are responsible for the academic related matters of the distant education. Think of a director, can he do all this work independently without the cooperation of the several support services, several offices below him? It is not possible. Here, it is very important for him to run the administration on a day-to-day basis, to share power or to share authority with others. That shows the important significance of delegation. So, whomsoever it may be, without delegating the power, without sharing the authority, no person can run the administration in any organization. Next, I have to speak about what is the process of delegation of authority, how the authority is actually delegated to persons below him. It involves certain steps. I have to list out the steps. If you look at the chart number 1, you will have an idea about how the authority is actually delegated, how the power is shared with those below him. First one, assignment of duties. Second one, granting of authority. Third one, creating accountability. These three aspects give a shape to delegation. Let us have a look at each and every aspect. If you have the opportunity of listening to the explanation, you will have an idea about, wide idea about power delegation or authority sharing. First one is assignment of duties. The superior officer has to clarify to the subordinate what exactly is expected from them. Before that, he has to clarify the goals of the organization or objectives of the organization, number one. After having clarified the objectives, he has to make it clear what is expected from the subordinates is first thing. What they are supposed to do, within what time frame, how they should do it. You should give all these details in a clear-cut terms or in unambiguous terms to his subordinates. This is the first step. So the first step is assignment of the duties. Here the superior officer has to clarify all the nitty-gritty of the operations to the subordinates. This is the first step. Second one is granting the authority. Once these things are made clear, that is objectives, procedure, methods, tasks, activities are made clear to the subordinates, next important thing is granting of authority. If authority is not granted, merely responsibility is cast on the subordinates. Subordinates cannot do any work. So for translating the objectives into reality, he has to necessarily grant sufficient authority to the subordinates. See, take the case of our directorate. Director is solely responsible for the conduct of the several programs run under correspondence mode. See, he cannot simply go and take classes for the different courses. He has to necessarily delegate the administration of the different departments to different heads. Each head has to be clothed with authority to frame timetable, to frame curriculum, to fix resource persons, to remunerate resource persons, to use the infrastructural facilities for the conduct of the contact programs, and he has to decide vacations, staff working under them. For several of these aspects, necessarily the HODs need to be clothed with authority. Third one is creation of accountability. So the first step, assignment of the duties. Second one is granting of authority. Last one is creation of accountability. See, the superior officer is delegating to the subordinates the authority sidewards, downwards. Of course, he is liable to his own superior officers upward. So his accountability moves upwards, whereas the delegation goes sidewards and downwards. This aspect we have to understand. See, once the authority is delegated to lower level officers or local level officers, automatically the person to whom the authority is delegated, we call them a delegate. Delegate is accountable for the performance. Just he has to account for how he has exercised the authority given by the superior officer. This is what is called accountability. Just he has to give the local level officers, delegate is the person to whom the authority is entrusted should explain to the superior officers how he has used this authority granted by the superior officers. This is what is called delegation. Now let us have a quick look at the different aspects constituting delegation. Number one, assignment of duties. Second one, granting authorities by superior officers. Third one is creation of accountability on the part of the delegate. These three things give an idea about how the authority is actually delegated to subordinates. Now you have an idea about what the term authority actually means. Second one, what is the meaning for the word delegation. Third, I have explained to you the process of delegation. Now let us turn our discussion to the beneficial aspects of delegation or importance of delegation. Now I have to explain whether the delegation is must, mandatory, imperative or optional. No doubt, as already pointed out, delegation is a sine qua non or indispensable for any person occupying any slot in the organization. Let me stress about the importance of the delegation or benefits of the delegation. Without delegation, one cannot conduct administration or conduct the management, irrespective of the nature of the organization. So let us be very curious about what are the benefits springing from the delegation. First one is Executives are relieved of routine and time consuming matters. How are executives benefited from delegation? See, the executives are, by delegating the authority to local level officers, they can focus on important matters, major matters, or strategic decisions. They can focus their attention on important matters influencing the fate of the organization. Their time is very crucial, very precious. They cannot be expected to spend their time, precious time, on peripheral issues like employees coming late, upkeep of machines, upkeep of premises, checking the punctuality of the employees, or ensuring the dispatch of orders, all these minor matters. See, these executives, by delegating these minor issues to local level officers, they can concentrate on vital issues affecting the organization, namely profit allocation, portfolio management, combating competition, price fixation, improving quality, merger, acquisition, and several other important issues confronting the organization require the precious time of the officers or executive CEOs. So naturally, the delegation helps these executives or CEOs who are occupying the top slot of the organization to focus on vital issues affecting the organization. So this is the first aspect. Second one, it facilitates services of specialists. As I already pointed out in my earlier discussion, no person can be a genius. However versatile, talented, skilled, knowledgeable a person may be, he cannot be attending to several work of different nature requiring expertise knowledge in various fields. He cannot do it. No one can do it. A person can be specialist in production aspect. He may not be knowledgeable about accounting aspect, tax aspect, quality aspect, marketing aspect. So through delegation helps in enjoying the benefits of the service of the specialist, namely production engineer, marketing manager, accountant, tax manager, HRD specialist, quality control manager, advertisement manager, public relation manager, and so on. Through delegation, these technical matters are delegated to different experts. This is another important advantage. If the delegation is not there, a single person may have to attend to all this work, then the result will be, very shocking. Third important benefit deriving from the delegation is, it opens the doors for local level workers or subordinates to prove their capability, knowledge, ability, talent, competency. Once the work is entrusted to them, they will try to see that the work is executed perfectly. They feel it is an opportunity, it's a boon for them to come out in full swing, to show off their knowledge. Through delegation, through power sharing, local level employees are enabled. They are getting an opportunity to prove their talent. Thus, it opens, it is an opportunity to dig out the hidden talents of the employees. Next, another important thing, the last advantage derived from delegation is usefulness to multinational companies or other companies operating with a network of branches. There is almost all the companies are having, multinational companies are having branches all over the world. Not only that, each and every department, every big organization is having different departments. Delegation is highly suited to organizations which are operating with a network of branches or with a network of different departments. Delegation is not there. Different departments or different branches situated elsewhere cannot be functional, cannot be successfully functioning. So delegation is highly helpful to multinational companies or companies operating with a number of department branches, so on. So let us have a quick look at the benefits. First one, executives are relieved from the routine, minor, peripheral, time-consuming matters. Number two, the facilities of the domain experts are available through delegation. Third one, the employees at the local level are able to show their talents, potentials through delegation process. Fourth one, the delegation is highly suited, apt to organizations operating with a network of branches or any organization having a number of departments within itself. Right. Let us go to the next aspect. My definition is brought to 4: authority, then delegation, the process of delegation, significance and the beneficial aspects of delegation. Next, let me switch over to problems in delegation. Okay, I have explained to you the importance of delegation. When the advantages are so much, what are the problems involved in delegating the authority to local level workers or subordinates? There are several problems confronted by the managers. This discussion I am going to analyze under two heads. One, delegation, problems faced by managers in delegating the authority. Second aspect, problems, obstacles or barriers to delegation from the point of view of subordinates. First is barriers from the viewpoint of or from the camera angle of superior officers. What do they feel? Why do they not, why don't they like the idea of delegation? What are their psychological handicaps? I am going to expose to you. First one is unwillingness to delegate. The managers themselves are unwilling to delegate or share power with their subordinates. Why? They feel that they are indispensable, they are all in all, they are key to the organization. They are under the impression that the entire organization is revolving around them. They expect everybody to be dependent on them. They feel that if they leave the organization will be doomed. Where the mentality is so, delegation is impracticable. The first one is unwillingness. This is one psychological handicap. So a manager who feels that he is all in all, is at most important, indispensable, will not like the idea of power sharing or authority sharing. This one is first one. Second one is desire to dominate. Some managers are always of domineering nature. They are bossist in nature. They want to boss over the subordinates. They always like the subordinates coming to them, or even for minor matters, for their approval. They will never like the idea of power sharing with the subordinates. When they expect the subordinates to be yes man, they will never allow the subordinates to enjoy power. This is second handicap. Third one, lack of confidence in subordinates. The managers themselves, some of the managers, I mean to say, they may not have a confidence in subordinates. Though the subordinates are talented, smart, or quick-witted, they may not like the idea of power sharing because they don't have a confidence in the subordinates' competency. They feel that they are the impression that the subordinates may arrive at a wrong decision. The quality of the decision arrived at by subordinates will be wrong. It will lead him to trouble, they feel. When the feeling is so, they may not like the idea of delegation. Fourth one is fear of competition. This is also a psychological handicap. Some of the managers fear where the subordinates happen to be talented, knowledgeable, competent, smart, very clever. They have inherent fear that they may overtake them, outshine them, outwit them, and they will become a non-entity in the due course. Where they psychologically fear about the subordinates, they may not like the idea of delegation. Then next one, last one, fear of being exposed. Where the delegating manager himself is a corrupt, he is inefficient, he is poor in decision making, or he is following a poor procedure, he may fear that the delegation will bring to the light, or the delegation will highlight the inefficiency of his administration. So you may not like the idea of delegation. So I have listed you the 5 different handicaps, psychological handicaps experienced by managers. So these 5 points stress why the managers are hesitant or reluctant or unwilling to share authority with the subordinates. Let us have a quick look at it. First one is unwillingness to delegate. They feel that they are indispensable, so they may not like the idea. Second one is desire to dominate. Some managers desire to boss over the subordinates always. They expect the subordinates to come to them even for minor matters. They may not like the idea of authority sharing. Third one is they may not have a confidence in subordinates' competency. They may not like delegation. Fourth one is if they fear that subordinates outsmart them, outshadow their performance, they may not like the idea of power sharing. If the delegating manager is a corrupt person, or if he is inefficient, he may fear that his inefficiency and corrupt practice will come to light through delegation. He may not like the idea. So these 5 points bring to the light the barriers on the part of the managers. Okay, my earlier discussion highlighted the problems from the angle of superior officers. Now let me take my discussion to the latter part of it, that is, problems from the angle of the subordinates. Now the manager is ready, but the subordinates are not ready to take up the assignment. What are the problems? Why do they shy away from taking up the assignment or taking up the authority, or why they are going away from decision making, why they are fearful of decision making? I am going to now highlight all these things during this ongoing lecture. First one, dependence on managers. where a subordinate happen to be working under a dominant boss or a domineering boss or a boss of, a person of domineering nature, he may slowly develop diffidence in himself. After having served him for several years, right, under the dictates of the despotic boss, he lose self-confidence. Always, yes, he find it easier to take orders from the superior officers, that too from the domineering boss, rather than executing the work independently. So, when a person happen to be working under a domineering boss, he may not like delegation. He take an easy route of taking counsel from the superior officer. This is first handicap from the part of the subordinates. Second one, fear of criticism. See, some of the subordinates entertain a fear that they may commit mistake. When they are executing the work entrusted by the superior officers, they may have a fear that they may commit mistakes, and their mistakes will be amplified, magnified, and their mistakes will come in for criticism. They may have to lose their face, right? When they have such feelings, when they have such fear, naturally they may not like the power sharing or authority sharing. This is the second important thing experienced by the handicap experienced by some of the subordinates who happen to be working under a dominant boss. Third one is lack of self-confidence. I already pointed you, where a person happens to be working under the control or the thumb of a dominant officer, naturally you will become a dependent. Such persons in due course will lose their confidence. Naturally they will detest delegation. They may not like the delegation because they don't have a confidence in themselves. Absence of positive motivation. See, some subordinates, some persons look everything from the angle of the money or power. Some persons are capable, talented, knowledgeable, skilled at decision making, but they may not like the idea of power sharing, or they may not have a taste for doing the work entrusted by subordinates, because they may feel that they may not get any positive incentive for their extra energy spent, for the extra effort diverted for the work done. They may feel that they may not be sufficiently compensated for the energy spent. They may not like the idea. So, if the chances for promotion or monetary incentives, perks, allowances or appreciation are not there, naturally subordinates may not have a spirit, or they may not have a liking for decision making or delegation. Last one, lack of cooperation from the superiors. Some of the superior officers, I already told you, especially happen to be domineering or dominating. He may not overtly or covertly like the idea of delegation. Due to organizational pressure, even if he happens to be sharing power or sharing authority with the subordinates, the superior officers may not cooperate with the subordinates. Some of the subordinates fear that, so the superior officers may not cooperate with them, giving facts and figures, all necessary inputs for decision making, where they fear that there is a non-cooperation on the part of the superior officers for the decision making, they may not come forward to take up the delegated work. So, these 5 handicaps are exposed to or confronting the subordinates. First one, dependent on managers. Dependent on managers, I mean to say, where a subordinate happens to be working under dominant boss, he may not like the power sharing or delegation of authority. Second one, where the subordinates fear that even his minor mistakes will be magnified and he will be in trouble, he may not like the idea. Third one, some subordinates who happen to be working under dominant boss may not have a confidence, may slowly become diffident, so they may not like the idea of delegation. Fourth one, where there are no positive strokes, positive motivators, naturally subordinates may lose interest in doing the work delegated to them. Then last one, lack of cooperation from the superior officers, where the subordinates have a feeling that superior officers may not cooperate with them, giving facts and figures or moral support or necessary inputs, infrastructure. They may feel that they will be in trouble doing the delegated work. They may not like the idea of delegation. These 5 problems are confronting the subordinates. Now let us come to the last part, namely how to make delegation effective. Some of the measures I am going to suggest in my lecture. First one, managers should be convinced of delegation. Managers first should be taken into confidence on the matters of delegation, on the importance of delegation. They should be taken into confidence that delegation is to actually help them, not to hinder them. And they should be impressed upon the need and necessity of the delegation, benefits of the delegation, significance of delegation. They should be convinced that where there is no delegation of power or delegation of authority, the manager should be short of time, they will be limited in their achievement. This is the first thing. We have to give psychological treatment to the manager. Second one, clear knowledge of the authority to be delegated. The manager should have a clear knowledge of the authority to be delegated. Right? You should know first what authority is to be delegated, what authority he should reserve with himself, withhold himself. He should have an idea, so that there may not be any overlapping of authority. Third one, motivate the subordinates. We have to motivate the subordinates. See, during the process, when the subordinates are undertaking the work or executing the work, they may be making mistake. Superior officers should not make a mountain out of molecule of the mistake. They should correct them. They should let the superior officers should let the subordinates to commit mistake, and they should take it as an opportunity to correct the subordinates. Where they are correcting the subordinates mistake, subordinate will definitely will develop confidence in themselves. This is another important thing. So the manager should take the correction of mistake as an opportunity to train the subordinate. If this is done, definitely delegation will be effective. Then fourth one, train the subordinates. Wherever possible, you delegate as much work as to the subordinate, withholding only the matters which require serious attention. All the routine, minor, peripheral matters can be delegated to subordinates. When they are actually doing the work, when they are actually going to the motions of delegation, they will train themselves. Then fifth one, clarify the goals. Superior officers have to clear picture about the goals of the organization, objectives of the organization. What actually is expected from the subordinates, what tasks and activities are involved, how their work is going to help them, how the work done by the subordinates or activities done by the subordinates will contribute to the goal achievement. He should clarify, in a meeting convened by him. So he should first give you a clear idea about the goals, tasks, objectives and everything. You should make clear to the subordinates. Then finally, define the scope and authority control system of the organization to check whether the employees have been performing the work and discharging the work sincerely, dedicatedly, devotedly, according to the procedures established, according to the norms given, according to the direction given, instruction given, etc. Now you have a clear idea about the term delegation, importance, problems from the angle of the superior officers, problems from the angle of subordinates. Finally, we have discussed about the measures necessary for making the delegation effective. Thank you.